is Michelle Mahoney. I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia now. I'm originally from Spring Hill, Nova Scotia. I'm the youngest of 5 children. I have 3 older sisters and a twin brother, Michael. So I was born with arthrogryposis, which is lack of muscle in various joints. It affects my arms and legs. I have triceps, but no biceps. My left knee doesn't bend, and my right knee bends about 90 degrees. I was born with a right dislocated hip and clubbed feet. So my right dislocated hip and clubbed feet were both operated on before I was 2. I was born in October 1972, and we met my doctor at the IWK that January, and he sat my mom down and explained this condition and said, people with this condition lead very normal lives and treat it like you would a regular kid. So I guess being the youngest of 5 kids, I was treated like a regular kid. When I was bad, I was put on the piano. Our mother was a piano teacher, and so I was never held back from anything. I took part in anything and everything I wanted to. I really had a wonderful childhood growing up, and all my life I've surpassed everything that they said I wasn't, could never do. So my theme in life is that I'm unstoppable. If you give me a challenge, I'm gonna prove that I can do it. And I love a challenge because it might just take me a little longer to get to it, but having the same needs and wants as everybody else. So I went to university because everybody else was going to university. I wanted to go to university. I graduated. I do a lot of speaking about growing up with a disability and to local interest groups. I've given a few speeches to occupational therapy classes, and I tell people that I graduated in May 1995 with what I like to refer to as a Bachelor of Arts with a major in independence, because that's what I learned to do. I became independent. I moved to the city and looked for a job. I've been working at Dalhousie for 20 years, and I recently got married in 2011, and I learned how to drive a car, and my husband and I built an accessible home. We just got our first puppy, and his name is Gus, and we're going to actually train him to help me. He is a Nova Scotia duck taller, and he is just, my heart is so full. I can't even imagine my life without him now. I've been introduced to a lot of different opportunities for people with disabilities. I downhill ski in the winter. This past weekend I went surfing for the third time. This was my 3rd year at an event called Life Rolls On, and it's at Martinique Beach. And again, quite possibly the coolest thing I did ever. And then they asked me this year, so how do you want to go on the board? Do you want to lay down or do you want to sit up? And I said, I want to stand. They said, okay, we'll make it happen. So they did. I stood and did a couple of runs or a couple of waves. I rode a couple of waves standing up on a surfboard with the support of people in front of me and people behind me, and it was really cool. During your time, there are about 20 or 22 volunteers per participant. So, and then there are avid people in the water, like avid surfers that are like at the back, like, knowing which wave to catch and stuff. And then the volunteers, like some of the volunteers closer to shallow water and stuff, were like health professionals and stuff like that. So they just help you have a great time. I couldn't believe it. So the people that are on the board for that organization asked me to join that board as well. So I've been on that board since May, literally. They asked me to sit on that board just because it would give I would be able to give the perspective of the experience of a participant. So, and you know, I gave him a lot of pointers and stuff, and so we're going to debrief in a couple of weeks, and then I'll stay involved as well for the event next year. And I think it's because I'm, you know, I get so revved up and I get so excited, and I get, you know, and I get the other participants so excited, and you know, because this is a really cool event. And I mean, unfortunately, you know, some people, you know, they might be afraid of the water and stuff, so it might not be an event for them. So, but it really is a really cool event. Volunteer has like the best time seeing the joy in the participants' faces, right? Like, it's such a win-win day. It really is a wonderful, wonderful experience. I do a lot of work for an organization called Easter Seals Nova Scotia. It is a nonprofit organization that assists people in Nova Scotia living with physical disabilities. Kind of a funny backstory to Easter Seals. I went to a camp as a kid, to a barrier-free, accessible camp, and my sisters worked at this camp, and it's called Camp Tidnish, which is one of the programs under Easter Seals. So now, a few years ago, I got involved in an event called Drop Zone, where you rappel off of 1801 Hollis Street and you raise money for Easter Seals Nova Scotia. And I thought, jump off a building? Like, okay, I would love to do that. I'm a thrill seeker, I think, and I really I love the adrenaline rush. So I raised money for that, and after the event, the president at the time had met with me, and he said, like, I'd really like you to become involved somehow, because your passion and your excitement for the organization, like, it's just, it's empowering. And so now I am part of Easter Seals Nova Scotia. I've been on the board for, this will be my 4th year, and this will be my 4th year rappelling off of 1801 Hollis Street on September 27th, 2019, if you want to come downtown to Hollis Street. Seriously, it is quite possibly another cool thing that I've done. So as a board member for the province of Nova Scotia, I have recently been asked to sit on the board of Canada. So I now sit on the board of Canada for Easter Seals. And I mean, again, so how cool is it to give back to an organization that has changed my life? So it's really, you know, it's really cool. You know, my life is full, and I think that my positive attitude, I don't quit at anything. And, you know, I was told that I would never walk, that I'd never talk, that I would never feed myself or dress myself, or that I probably need assistive devices like crutches or braces to help me walk. So, you know, and being a twin, and my condition is lack of muscle, they didn't think I would talk, because my twin brother would always talk for me. So, you know, I like to tell people that that's where all of my excess muscle went, because I can talk. I'm a receptionist. I love representing an organization and being the front line. I work at the Faculty of Law. I've worked at the School of Occupational Therapy for 10 years. The students at the School of Occupational Therapy have just created a scholarship. Actually, they've renamed it a prize, because they don't want it to be GPA related, which is just means so much to me. So the award will be given to students going into the 2nd year of the program that have developed some of the you know, characteristics and you know, getting others involved and things like that. I haven't really seen all the criteria for the award yet, but the students presented it at their graduation this year, where I was a guest speaker as well. And then they presented the scholarship. I was aware of the scholarship because they needed to get my permission to use my name. So now that I have been at the School of Occupational Therapy for 10 years and I've moved on to the Faculty of Law, you know, it is my goal in life is to, you know, help students, one student at a time, you know, make a difference in students' lives and to help them reach their goals. That's my, you know, and my motto in life again is that I'm unstoppable. So no. And, you know, there were often times where, you know, like my mom would bring me to Halifax from Spring Hill she'd bring me to Halifax for appointments and stuff. And, you know, that was never a rosy time for me, right? I hated Halifax because I associated it with, you know, going to the IWK and having surgeries and stuff. And, you know, I think that there were times where my brother felt left out. He even told my mom one time he wished he had a disability so he could go to events. And then, but there were so many times where I was jealous of him because like he had his license in high school and, you know, I didn't. And, you know, I mean, that was a really big deal when I got my license 10 years ago. You know, I did Young Drivers of Canada and I had to do the program at the rehab center to determine if I was fit to drive. Like I had to pass that first and then I had to, you know, have a physical. It was a really big process. The focus of Easter Seals is assisting a persons with disabilities in the province of Nova Scotia. So each province has its own organization, and then there's a person from every organization that sits on the board of Canada. So each province like assists people within their own province. You know, we have the wheelchair recycle program. We have the bocce, learn to bocce. They have catering. Yeah, the New Leaf Enterprises is the catering. We have a cafe, right? Like especially at Christmas time and stuff, you can order baking and I get it every year. It's wonderful. They also have like different crafts that they sell and but they have skills training workshops and for people with disabilities, they come to work there and yeah, it's great. And they have a cafe right in Burnside. Well, I think the one thing that I wish I knew as my 5-year-old self was that there's so much opportunity in the world for you. Because, you know, if you were to say, like, I keep saying, if you were to say 10 years ago that I'd be surfing, I think you were crazy. If you were to say 10 years ago that I'd be skiing, I think you would be crazy. If you were to say 10 years ago I would be driving a car, I think you'd be crazy. If you were to say 10 years ago that that I would have a scholarship in my name, I think you were crazy. If you were to say 10 years ago that I'll be living in a barrier-free, accessible home that I, you know, developed and worked on, I think you were crazy. You know, so I think that all of the opportunities that have you know, come my way, like I work hard for where I am and where I get to. And I guess I've realized I really have become my own advocate. You know, I know that, you know, on a side note, I'm not sure if you're aware about the straw epidemic all over the world. And I can appreciate and I understand that, you know, that we need to do away with plastic straws. And I get that. I'm totally 100% on board. But I don't think it's just the straws. There's so much plastic waste out there that needs to be, you know, we need to do away with that. Straws are not killing the world. People with disabilities need straws. I use a straw every day. I use a straw for my coffee, for my water, for my pop, for my beer. Occasionally, I drink through a straw, so I need a straw. You name the straw, I have it. Plastic, silicone, foldable, paper, metal, and I really like the plastic straw. But, you know, I find that, you know, whenever anybody gets on the subject of talking about straws, it makes my blood boil, because, you know, people don't actually realize that people need straws. People need to, I need a straw. I was at a restaurant last year with my husband, and I asked for a straw, and they didn't have one. So at the end of the night, I asked to speak to the manager, and, you know, I told him, and it was a place on the waterfront, and I said, like, there's going to be people getting off of cruise ships, and they're going to come into your restaurant because you're known for seafood. Like, and there's going to be a man in a wheelchair, and he's going to need a straw to drink with. Have a stash of straws out back. Like, don't give a straw with every drink, but have a stash so that you can produce one when somebody needs one. And so, again, I advocate for the world one straw at a time. You know, I guess, you know, back to my 5-year-old self, like, I would never have dreamed of any of the opportunities that I have had. Oh my God. Like, I really think that I have led and lead and have lived such a successful life, but it's my attitude too. You know, again, I'll throw that word unstoppable, because I'm unstoppable. I can do anything, because I put my mind to it. And that's why I get to where I am. It's because I have the mindset, and I want to do it. I wanted to go to university. I tell people that I mean, I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts with a major in independence, but I have an X-ring. Can you see it? There we go. And I wear it proudly, and I earn my X-ring, and you know, I have a university degree, and nobody can take that away from me. But I learned to become independent and live away from my mom. My mom was my right arm for 18 years, and you know, she fought for me. She, you know, going through the school system, and you know, going, like, being back in that early, like, or you know, early or late 70s, there wasn't a lot of things available for people with disabilities like there is now. Like, I did not have an assisted person in my classroom to help me. You know, one time I had surgery, and I couldn't even make it to my cafeteria because there were stairs to the cafeteria. So I had a friend that would come and have lunch with me every day. So, you know, so I guess, you know, just over time, things have really changed. And, you know, I don't regret any of the bad times or, you know, hard times that I've had, because again, what didn't kill me made me stronger, right? But again, at the end of the day, you can only do one day at a time. Yeah, I have the same needs and wants as everybody else. It just takes me a little longer to get there. Exactly. And like, I think that I futuristically, I think that that's where I see myself going. I think I see, I think, you know, I guess kind of guiding students. Like, I really wish that I had somebody when I went to university, somebody like me who I could be mentored by. And, you know, so I see that being my goal, or my what I will do in the future. And I mean, I did that with so many OT students, I think. But just another quick story too. I had a friend recently reach out to me, well, it was about in May, and actually, no, I think it was a little earlier, maybe March or April. And she's a teacher in Alberta, and she's like a guidance counselor in at a school, a middle school in Alberta. And she had a student come to her, and the student was upset because she couldn't play basketball, and she wanted to try out. And she has cerebral palsy, and she was down about that. So my friend started telling her about me, and then she sent me a message on Facebook, like a private message, like on Messenger. So we were talking back and forth, and you know, so she was telling the student a little bit about me, and, you know, so my hands are turned at the wrist because I have no muscle in my wrist. So, you know, so she was just explaining to her a little bit about me, and they asked if they could reach out, like at the end of the conversation, the student was smiling, and she, just because, you know, I told her to tell the student, you know, that she can do anything as long as she, you know, if she puts her mind to it. If she can't do basketball, we'll try something else instead. And, you know, find some things that you can do. And, you know, I just, you know, life is too short, and, you know, to be sad, and, you know, we're put on earth for a reason, and, you know, I'm not sure yet what my reason is, but, you know, I think that, you know, I gave that little girl some hope that day. She was smiling ear to ear, and then my friend said, "Can we contact you again in the future?" And so, you know, we're going to stay in touch. And so it's live each day to the fullest, right? You never know, it could be your last, right? And so, you know, if I die tomorrow, it's, you know, I've had a good life.